Hello everyone, welcome to the second video of week 2 of Business Analytics Programming. In the first video, we introduced the variable as well as we can apply method into variable and we can use functions to print out the content of the variable through the print function. Variable allow us to store one piece of information such as a string or an integer. Sometimes we want to have a way to store a set of different kind of information, like 3 strings, 3 numbers, or 2 strings and 3 numbers together. And variable cannot do that by itself. We have list. List actually allow us to store a set of different information with different types by grouping them in a square bracket. List is a convenience way to collect different items together, and also a list is a collection of items in a particular order. So it is ordered by index. Unlike our typical index in everyday life, the index usually starts 1. The first element is 1, the second one index is 2, etc. But elements of the list is always indexed from 0. So the first element in a list, it has the index 0. The second element in a list is going to have a index 1. The third element is going to have a index 2. So initially, when you first learn Python, it's a little bit inconvenience to start the index from 0. But little by little, you're going to use to that convention. So here is one example. Motorcycle equal in the square bracket, I have Honda, Yamaha, and Suzuki in quotation mark. So we know that anything between two quotation marks is a string content. In that particular case, we have 3 strings, and they are separated by comma and enclosed by a square bracket, which define a list. So motorcycle basically is a list which has 3 elements, 3 string elements. They are Honda, Yamaha, and Suzuki as a string. Okay, and those are indexed by numbers. And the first index is 0, the second index is 1, the third index is 2. For example, we can print out a individual element from the list by its index. Like if we print motorcycle and the square bracket 0, which means the first element of the list, which is Honda, and the motorcycle square bracket 1 is Yamaha, which is the second element of the list. So we see that it print out Honda and Yamaha as we expected. But how about this negative index? The negative index means the last element in the list. So -1 indicate the last element in the list. -2 indicate the second last element in the list. So for a list has only 3 elements, -1 means always the last one, which is the Suzuki. And we print that element out, it shows Suzuki. And we know the Yamaha is motorcycle 1, but if you, in your Python notebook, you type in print motorcycle square bracket -2, it's going to show Yamaha, the second last from the last element. So index is a convenience way we can reach out different element in the list. But remember, the index always starts from 0, and the negative index means the last one, the second last one, etc. So we can actually refer to different element in the of a list by the square bracket with an index in it. We can also modify each individual element just as we modify a variable in the previous video by using the equal sign. For example, if we type in the motorcycles index 0 in a square bracket equal to Ducati, then the first element indexed by 0 is used to be Honda, but once we use that equal sign here, then it's going to replace Honda by Ducati. So now if we print the motorcycle out, it is become Ducati, Yamaha, and Suzuki. So Honda was replaced because of this, because this line right here. So which means we can modify. We can actually modify any elements we want at any time by using the equal sign here. Similar to variables, list also has a few methods that we can apply. The typical method is append, insert, pop, remove, sort, and reverse. We're going to describe those in detail in the next page. And also, in addition to the print function, there are a few other functions we can apply to the list as well. There are sorted and length function. We're going to describe this later in the next page as well. For list, we can also use a statement, a Python statement. Python statement is not a Python function, but Python statement, we do not need to have the parentheses around after the keywords. It is basically a particular operation we can apply to list. The del is a specific statement. It can delete a specific element of a list. For example, we define motorcycle to be Honda, Yamaha, and Suzuki, which has 3 elements. If you use del, which means delete motorcycle index 1, which means the second element, it is Yamaha. After we run this line, which means Yamaha is removed from the list, and there's only 2 elements left, which is Honda and Suzuki. We can print out motorcycle to see whether it is true or not. And actually the result is Honda and Suzuki, which confirms that the del function, the del statement is going to remove a specific element defined by its index. As we mentioned just a minute ago, there are different kind of methods we can apply to the list. Here is a few different kind of method. So let's suppose we have the motorcycle defines Honda, Yamaha, and Suzuki. Then it has 3 elements. How about we apply the motorcycle append method there? So basically, to refresh, a method can be applied once we have the dot operator and a specific method for the list. In that particular case, we're saying we're going to append Kawasaki to the list. Let's see what will happen. And we know that once we append that, it will be a 4-element list. Is that true? Okay, so we can print out what is the motorcycle now after we append Kawasaki to the list. Here I'm still using the print function, but to give us a better illustration, because we have a few different print functions here, to give us a little bit clarity, I added apt append piece to the print function, which is going to basically show the apt append, as well as we convert the motorcycle, which is the list, convert that into a string and combine those two strings together and print out. It's more like a help us to distinguish what is the result from which print function. In that particular case, we appended Kawasaki, so we see there are 4 elements to print out. So the first line is the first print function, and it's right here. Okay. In addition to append, we can also insert. Append always add one more element to the list at the end. Sometimes we want to add a element that is not the end, but in the middle of the list, even at the beginning of the list. We can do that by the insert method. Now, after we append, we know there are four elements already. We now want to insert at 0 this first argument within that method 0, which means the position. Where do we want to insert? We want to insert at 0, which basically at the beginning of the list, to insert a string called Ducati. Now we print after the insert plus the motorcycle and convert it into a string. It is right here. Now you can see that we have 5 elements in the list. The first one is a newly inserted Ducati. In addition to insert, we can actually remove. We can remove element by their content. In this particular case, we're removing the first element that actually has the content of Honda. After we do that, after we run this function, we can print out what will be the effect. You can see that after remove, so Honda is disappeared. We now have 4 elements in the list. So in addition to insert, remove, or append, we can also reverse the order. So after remove Honda, it has 4 elements. It's basically Ducati, Yamaha, Suzuki, and Kawasaki. In the reverse method, is actually reverse the order of the element. So you can see after we print the motorcycle list, it is at the reverse order. It's Kawasaki, Suzuki, Yamaha, and Ducati. We can also sort the element by their alphabetic order, the first letters alphabetic order. So this is the original 4 elements in the position at the relative position. After we apply the sort method, it's actually ordered by their first letter: Ducati, Kawasaki, Suzuki, and Yamaha. So those are a few of the methods you can quickly try. In addition to method, we can also apply a few different kind of functions into that in the list. One function is the length, how many elements in a particular list. So now we define motorcycle again as 3 elements: Honda, Yamaha, and Suzuki. We use len function to return the length of the motorcycles list. We know that it's going to be 3, and here I assign that number into a variable called n. Then I print with some expanded information to n and combine those 2 pieces together. And also remember the str function is convert a numerical value to a string such that we can combine those 2 pieces of information. And it returns len function 3, which basically we know that is actually tell us there are 3 elements in a motorcycles list. In addition to the length function, another function we can use is sorted function. Sorted function is basically sort the elements by the first letters alphabetic order. It is very similar to the sort method, but this is the function. We can when we actually apply the sorted function, it is the element in the list is sorted, and then we have to save the sorted result into another list. So we create a new variable called a new list. It's a list. It's going to store the sorted motorcycle list. And as expected, the new list is basically Honda, Suzuki, and Yamaha sorted by their first letters alphabetic order. But the sorted function is not going to change the content of motorcycles. So that's the difference between the sorted function and sort method itself. The sort method itself is going to change what is inside motorcycle list. And so after we apply the motorcycle sort method, and motorcycles itself is already changed. But in this particular case here, we apply the sorted function, we get a new list, but the motorcycles list, the original list, still remain the same. To check whether it still remain the same, we can print out what is within motorcycle now after we apply the sorted function. We found out that yes, it is. It is still in the same order as we defined at the beginning. So the sorted function is going to sort the elements and assign the sorted result to a new list. But the motorcycle, the original list itself, the order is not going to be changed. So that's the difference between sorted function and sort method. Another popular method in list is actually pop. Pop, it is basically remove the last elements from the it's not necessarily remove the last element. So the pop, there's actually an argument. Here we have 1, which basically we're going to remove the element actually at position index 1, which is always the second element in a list. So when we actually apply the pop function, it's going to be automatically delete the content of the list at the position defined as the argument. In that particular case, when we apply the pop method, Yamaha is going to be removed from the list. So that is only the first piece of the operation. It actually, after we remove Yamaha from the list, it has an additional function. The additional function is the removed element can be assigned to a variable. It is actually assigned to a variable, and that particular variable that I named is pop1, which means I want to see which variable is removed from the list using the pop1 method. So this one should be Yamaha, and the motorcycles after the pop method, the Yamaha is going to be removed, so there will be 2 elements, Honda and Suzuki. To see whether it is true or not, let's run this, and this is the result. So basically pop1 has the value of Yamaha, and motorcycles, it is the list But after the pop method, there are only two elements, Honda and Suzuki. Yamaha, which is at the position 1, the index 1, it is being removed from the motorcycle list, and it is saved into a pop1 variables. So the pop method basically do two operations. One is remove the elements from the list as the specified index, and the second function is save the removed element into another variable. In this particular case, I named that variable to be pop1 underscore 1. So this is basically a detailed explanation of a few different kind of method, and a few different functions that are very popular when we deal with list. Again, list is a collection of elements that are grouped together by a specific order. The order is defined by their index, and the index is always starting from 0 for the list in the Python language. And we can append, we can insert, we can remove, and also we can pop elements from the list, and we can reverse and sort the list, and we can apply a few functions like find out how many elements within the list, and we can sort the list and save the result to a new list by using the sorted function. But sorted function is not going to change the motorcycle list content itself, the order itself. So that's a few different ways we can operate for the list in Python. It sounds a lot of content, but actually it is not much. Once you get familiar and once you run a few times of those variable and list and etc., and then you're going to get familiar with all the details pretty soon. Okay, then the last part of this video is the homework. This is the second week, and we're going to have our second homework. It will be 3 points, and the due date will be Sunday midnight at September 11th. The best way to learn a programming language is to actually using it. So this week's homework is all about the practice, a lot of practice. So please read chapter 2 and 3 of the textbook, the Python Crash Course by Eric. Type in and run all the Python codes in chapter 2 and 3 of the textbook within a Python notebook in your Databricks Community Edition. In the textbook, all the Python codes are grouped by 2 horizontal lines. So try to put a group of Python codes into one notebook file and run each and every cell. That's a good practice. Basically, you read through the book, and whenever you see a Python code within book, you type in that Python code into your Databricks Community Edition Python notebook and run it. So every grouped Python code in the textbook can be put into one cell and run it to see the result by yourself. You may see some error message and try to debug it. There are potential bugs in your code when you copy the textbook Python code into the notebooks. It is a good learning opportunity. And even though oftentimes there's only one line, 2 lines, or 3 lines of code in that group, but you may still actually have some typos while you're typing the code into the notebook. You copy the code from the textbook to the notebook. It is good learning experience. So try to experience that. There are a couple rare cases where the Python code in the textbook that cannot be run in a Databricks Community Edition notebook. Those are not bugs. It just doesn't run correctly because of the limit functions in the Databricks Community Edition. And try to find those rare cases and mark them in your notebook as well. You use the comment function. You put in comment if any of those code that cannot run to give you error message, and you make sure it's not bugs, and put in comment in your notebook. Mention it is not run in it is not run in the notebook. And then save your notebook with the codes and run results into HTML file and submit it to the eCollege. If you are a 523 student, there are additional steps. So at page 50 of the textbook, try it yourself, section 3.8, Seeing the World. Finish all the steps in 3.8 in a notebook in Databricks Community Edition, and save your notebook with the code and result to a HTML file and submit it to the college. And for 523 students, please remember to finish this step to get the full 3 points for this homework. And if you are a 423 student, you do not need to do this step. Okay, thanks a lot. This is the end of the second week's video of business programming, business analyst programming. See you next time.